So, hey, good morning, everyone. Robert Mahaffey with the Homes and Money Realtor Mastermind. This is week 26 or episode 26, if you want to say that. I have a friend of mine with me this morning, Amanda Gibbs. Thank you for joining us, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I've known Amanda for a couple of years. We've, of course, in this market, in this area, we've done transactions together before. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Amanda on is that she's worn a lot of different hats, including she was a loan officer at one point, right, Amanda? Like years ago? Yeah. Okay. So,
yeah.
But she's worn a lot of hats, including, I think recently where she was kind of in charge of some recruiting for some brokerage, and then now she's joined another brokerage, and so there's just been a lot of change, and she's worn a lot of hats, and she's now, I guess, doing a lot more real estate. So I want to get into that. She's got some exciting stuff with the brokerage that she just joined, and it's really good concept for us to kind of hash out today for anybody that's listening or watches the recording later. But let me start with some get to know yous first. So Amanda, are you from this area? Have you grown up in Cincinnati your whole life?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually from Trenton area, so I went to Edgewood. Lindsay and I went to school together.
Awesome. And now you have joined those of us in Westchester, Liberty Township. So, I see you at school events and those wonderful choir concerts that we get to attend.
Yes.
How long have you been in real estate, though?
I've been in 7.5 years licensed.
Okay. And what got you into that? What was the moment that put you into real estate?
Great question. I actually owned an insurance company under Farmers Insurance that I had built on my own from scratch. And I was looking to expand into bigger office space and kind of trying to partner with a company that made sense to kind of split the cost. And when I was looking for that, I had stumbled across a real estate brokerage that I'm like, hey, they were in the area. I'm trying to grow into this office. So I sat down with them and we decided to split an office, is basically how it began. So fast forward, I'd say I'd probably been doing that for like 1.5 to 2 years. And the broker at the time approached me and said, hey, we really think you should consider getting your real estate license. You refer us quite a bit of business. This is something you could just add on as an added value to your clients. We think you would do really well at this. And at the time I was just like, how in the world would I run an entire insurance company plus add on real estate? And so he slid over how much commission I would have made at the time. And I was like, okay, I have to figure that out. So, this is back in the time though, you could not do classes online. It was only in person only. And if you missed one class, they rolled it all the way to the next month, which was unreal. So I took the opportunity to hire out some positions in my agency, started my classes, got licensed. My first year in real estate as my part-time gig, I closed 43 transactions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we've got people from all different spectrums that either are here today or that will listen. How would you compare the insurance sale to the real estate sale?
Insurance is much harder. I feel like if you can sell insurance, you can sell anything to anybody, because even though it's something that's like a requirement for everybody to have, you're constantly arguing with people over like minor dollars on the penny, so, and then they don't fully understand the coverage and they sacrifice coverage, and that puts the agent in a bad position. So it's just a lot different than going into a real estate transaction sale. With real estate sales, you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars, and people are a lot more in tune to that and make what I feel like are more appropriate decisions, as opposed to just trying to cut costs to save a couple bucks. And they go hand in hand. It worked really well because a lot of people, if they need insurance and they're buying a home, you can kind of help go both ways. So, but real estate is just that's where my passion lied. So I fell in love with that pretty quick. And about 6 years after doing both, I sold my insurance company and then just did real estate by itself.
Okay. And one more kind of follow up on that. How do you feel like your experience and knowledge in insurance has helped you as an agent when you're showing properties or, listing properties, for example? What benefits are there that you've retained as knowledge that you can then pass on to clients?
No, that's an excellent question. Just because we had extensive training for claims, things to look for when we're actually doing a review of the property, as they required us to go out and like either random selection or at the start of some of the policies we had to walk through. I really knew a lot about what to look for as far as potential hazards that kind of fell in line with like FHA and VA type of property loans, because it was the same thing with insurance. So if you didn't have like some of the certain qualifications like handrails or broken windows and things like that, those were items that they would not also insure. So it just kind of depending on the policy type. But I didn't realize until just talking to other agents how much I knew about houses in general, as far as like plumbing, electrical, and everything from that background, that real estate agents weren't that in tune to. That's not something they're really trained on. We were, because we had to be, but that kind of helped carry over. And so when I walk through a property with my clients, I teach them how to look through not just a cosmetic, but look through those things to kind of look for something that could be a potential red flag prior to them even, especially in the market now, getting to the inspection period, even if they can do that.
Sure. Sure. And we don't talk about this a lot, and this may be something that I take for granted that I think a lot of how does the insurance background and side of things affect like the home warranty process? I know, a lot of transactions include a home warranty, and then maybe you're able to speak more to what could be covered in a home warranty versus what wouldn't be covered, et cetera. But is that make that part of the sale even easier as well?
It helps a little bit, just to kind of explain how the claim process goes through a warranty, because I think a lot of times we love home warranties just because it's kind of like that extra layer of protection, right? But people automatically assume that because they have the warranty, the entire thing is going to be covered. And that's not how any insurance works whatsoever. So they're going to be subjected to a deductible, and depending on what happens that causes the issue, they could potentially be subjected to paying a percent of the cost of the replacement as well. And that's written in any standard insurance and any home warranty product.
Okay. Okay, cool. Good to know. Okay. So 7.5 years as an agent, I mentioned that you've worn a lot of different hats. I think when I talked to you at Patrick's event, I don't know, Patrick, maybe a year and a half ago at Hanson, that at that time, the brokerage that you were working for, you were doing a lot more of like management and recruiting, right? And a little less real estate sales. Is that correct?
Correct. The brokerage I was with before, it makes sense if you're a solo agent looking for a small cap and you've kind of got an established business, not looking for any assistance whatsoever, and you're content is the best way to explain it. Because in that brokerage, like you said, you're doing everything. You're doing management, you're doing the recruiting side, you are basically holding yourself accountable. You can lean on others within, but you're doing your own training. And it's more of like an atmosphere of we all grow together and help each other, but you're all doing all of those tasks and you're not seeing the repercussions, with the exception of building, some extensive downline, if you have the ability to do that, to compensate for it. And it really does take away from your sales volume. I saw my first year when I moved over from my other brokerage, I was actually already in process of having my biggest year ever. I closed 87 transactions that year. It was COVID year, which was wild. But I started to see that shift and slowly deteriorate the next 2 years. And when I had to take an internal look at why I realized it was because I was doing so many of those other things that had been dumped onto my plate, and I just didn't really catch on to it. It became normal, became part of your routine. Um, so that really affected my business for 2 years.
Sure. Okay. So you've recently made the decision to switch, and we talked about this a little bit before we, officially started the call. And now the focus has gone back to what we seem to talk about on this mastermind a lot is you have a team, right? And you are focused again on sales and growth of that team, right? You're not having to do all of those other things. And so with respect to all of the wonderful real estate brokerages that are out there, how does the decision go into when you're selecting a brokerage? What's the most important for you, and what are you willing to give up to allow somebody else to do? Or a lot of times in the business world, what are you willing to outsource, right? So how did that kind of go into your decision making? And again, I want to be respectful to all brokerages, so I don't want to bash anybody or anything like that.
Right, absolutely. No, and that makes sense. So I'll be honest, when I was looking at interviewing multiple brokerages, it was something that kind of came to me. So in 1 week, I had 8 different brokerages reach out to us because we were doing really well, and they see the numbers. So they take it upon themselves to reach out and kind of talk to you and see if they could offer something that maybe we didn't know we were missing. And that's really where the conversation started. That's where the eye-opening of when I had my current manager sit down and be like, why aren't you selling this? And I said, I don't know. You tell me. That's why I'm here. And they said, it's because you're doing this, and I just sat there kind of like in shock and awe because I couldn't see that from an internal standpoint. I had to have an external bring it to my attention. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And those were all pain points to me because I realized how frustrating it was to constantly be having to train or constantly be having to deal with recruiting or people calling you to ask questions about the potential of recruiting. And they said, what if we took all that off your plate? And what if we told you we're going to help you grow to where you should be? What would that look like for you? And so we talked through a lot of what those things are that we were looking for in my team. And I wanted, in addition to that, it's my team. I wanted the ability to decide how much my team gets paid on my side and if they could grow within, because each brokerage is different. Sometimes they'll tell you, hey, this is what you can pay your team members and that's it. Or, hey, this is like a cap, or each individual agent has a cap. It's all different. So we were just looking for options of what was out there and what made the most sense for what our future goals were. And it was a hard decision at the end because we had really 2 great brokerages that came in and both of those things aligned. But I had to, again, look at both and say, do I want to be part of something that's trying to like grow, or do I want to be a part of something that's already figured it out and has it established and is going to help me grow? And of
Okay.
course, that's the one I leaned into.
Okay. And then I don't think we've asked this before, but it seems like a lot. And I know like Lisa Fair's talked about this before, and the Morales team and Megan Stacy and a lot of the people that are at the brokerage that you're at. How, if you're a team leader like you are, right? How do you let somebody else focus on the growth aspect so that you still sell? Because a lot of times you're still the rainmaker too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can be difficult to not put that hat back on for recruiting and growth when you're
Mm-hmm.
also the team leader, because essentially you're the person in charge, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel like that balance and shift is?
Oh, that's a great question. And I can't speak for what everybody else does, but one of the benefits of me being at the brokerage I came from is I had already had systems established and in place, and we literally just transferred that over. So now I look at it as I'm not the one basically or the only one, let's put it into that perspective, monitoring and assisting with that growth of those agents. So I have systems and tools to where like we pay for a lead gen for our agents. It dumps into a system that automatically routes. There's no babysitting with this. So if they're not touching the lead and doing the things they're supposed to be doing, my system automatically takes it away from them and notifies every agent that there's now a new lead available and for them to go grab it.
Gotcha.
So it allows a lot of like automation, but then in addition to that, having a team behind me that says, hey, why isn't this agent doing anything? Like, we're going to sit down with them and help you by coaching them and guiding them and seeing like, are they getting in their own way? Is there something we could be doing better? And those were all of the things I was doing before. So like, and our goal is to grow our team. And talking about that a little bit, I don't have to be the only one looking out for my best interest now. We were getting flooded with a lot of agents just kind of looking for that bailout because of the way the market is. And this wasn't the best fit for them. You know, some of my requirements as a team lead is I'm going to provide these services. And yes, there's a cost to it, but you've got to bring something to the table. So that's part of being included in our team because we have a lot of really good business relationships set up and a lot of like systems in place and tools and lead gen that will really help that agent kind of grow and pipeline. But they can't just come in and only lean on that. Like they've got to be able to do stuff on their own behind the scenes to grow their business. I also had put together like a full, I want to call it like a business plan. You know, I don't go into this thinking if you come on my team, you're here forever. If you are, great. But really, if your goal is to like grow as an agent and you want to grow out of the team, we've got a full roadmap to success to do that. You know,
Awesome.
here's where you begin, here's where you can go. You know, we can adjust commissions for that, you know, and you grow as an agent. The goal is for you to grow. And if you want to start a team, cool, then we're going to help you grow into that. And this brokerage is helping me do that with my team and my agents.
Okay. And let's talk about this for a second. Onboarding seems to be a really hot button, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just announced a change within the last 7 to 10 days, and you've gone through this before with switching. How do you think the brokerages, or what have you seen from brokerages that really have that nailed down? And maybe it's not like, maybe we're all getting a C on onboarding right now, and we need to figure out how to get an A. Have you, like, has your experience been there? Because I think a lot of people that are rainmakers, they just want to plug and play. Like, just
Yep.
change the logo on my business card. I'm still going out to meet Amanda today, and we're going to talk about listing her house, right?
Yep. 100%. And to that point, that is the number one reason a lot of agents won't move is because they think it's a hassle to move. If I could give like an A triple plus to my brokerage that I just switched to for that, that's it. Because we had it planned and mapped out. We booked it about a week in advance. On that day, we showed up as a team and they had basically sections of the office mapped out. So half of the team went in one section for IT. They took their laptops, they got everything set up, printers, everything logged in, their passcodes. And then they moved to the second office. They signed all their contracts. They swapped their licenses. Third office, they got their name writers. Fourth office, we did headshots and team photos. And then we had a second space for like lunch, you know, and then from that, then they brought in specialists. Their commercial team came in to like meet and greet us, say, hey, go through things, answer questions. Marketing was there. And then property management was there. The brokers were there. It was a whole big thing to bring in our team. We didn't skip a beat. I walked in that day, that morning, we started at 11, 3 p.m. My dot loop was ready to go. I wrote a listing. I wrote an offer. There was no skip. So if 3 hours, any agent can give up that. And it may not even take that long. We just took that long because of all of the things we were doing. Because to your point, we wanted it to just go, to just flow. You know, headshots done, everything done, new team stuff, all of it ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. Switching gears for a second. I was at a cookout this weekend. Most of you have been at cookouts the last 2 weeks, but I really am curious. as to what the future of this market entails, right? Everybody knows that we have a significant inventory problem, right?
Mhm.
It's also believed that in the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to see some lower interest rates, which if you don't fix the inventory problem and you lower interest rates, we're going to continue to drive prices up because it's a simple economics of supply and demand. How do you think, okay, giving you the magic wand, how do you think, or what have you studied that you think is going to fix the inventory problem?
Hmm. So I think there's a couple things in place locally that's going to assist. It's not going to correct it overnight. But one of the big things that we were kind of missing the bus on, like specifically in Cincinnati and Dayton, is our 55 and older club, right? So a lot of these people own these big houses in Indian Hill, Westchester, wherever. Their kids are gone. They're ready to move out. They don't necessarily all want to move out of state, but what do? Right? They're looking for that community to where they can move into something that's a little more easy to take care of and manage, but also maybe also offers additional things for them to do. And so we've started to see that they're building those communities more locally, whether it's like a specific retirement community or some of the ones that are 55 and up. That's really going to help with that. We're also seeing a big boom, obviously, with them building apartment and condos, especially in Westchester and Liberty. Those are
Yeah,
going up like wildfire. And
yeah,
we know that, I mean, it's not going to help the buyers because if you're looking at the cost of rent in those places, they could absolutely own a home. But I think our biggest thing is we got to start building up and not out, right? So like we really need to start having like more luxury condos, more luxury townhomes, and those type of things. We are seeing some of those go up in Liberty Township across from Liberty Center. We just did a tour of those and they're absolutely beautiful. But with interest rates going down, I think it will help the affordability of those properties that are a little bit more expensive because that's kind of where we've shifted to as far as standard price point. You know, we're not back in the days where you could buy houses for 80, 90, $100,000. Like you can't even find houses to flip for that at this point. So I think with them increasing the rate, it really did push a lot of people out of the market as far as to make a change because the people that want to move and downsize or upgrade, they have to pay more for a house. And so if we can shift those rates back, I think we would have people that would be more willing to sell because they would be okay going, okay, if I'm buying now, I can actually afford what I want to buy as opposed to kind of being bought out of the market with the interest rate. That's just from what I've heard from people talking. So I think that's one way that's going to assist. The nice thing about being at a big brokerage that has a lot of market is there's a lot of knowledge of things that are potentially coming to market.
sure.
And we get notified about that on a daily basis, which is super helpful to try to push our clients to say, okay, well, you were looking for this property. It's not on market, but our brokerage has it. Could that be a good match for you to now list your house and start that domino effect? And I'm sure you've heard Caldwell is like huge on doing that. And they sell 30% of their own inventory.
Sure. Yeah, I think the challenge could be, and this isn't just a Westchester Liberty Township type call, but and I could be off base. So anybody feel free to chime in and say this, but I think we have to be super careful. Um, not we like the responsibility isn't on us, but it's a helpful situation. Look at the streets of Westchester when I think it was Ryan Holmes built all those townhomes right by Top Golf and Main Event, right? Um, and then they can't get tenants to fill the streets of Westchester other than movie theater, restaurants, et cetera.
Right.
Like those shops all basically have gone out. Now you have Liberty Center and you've got Union Center Square and stuff like that. And I'm just saying this because this is where I drive by every day. I know, Dustin, I know you guys have this over in Montgomery, and there's a lot of stuff going up all over the city. but it really is a challenge to project and predict the sustainability of that community that you're selling, because that's what you're doing. You're selling urban living, right? And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Amanda, is you've got this beautiful Airbnb down in, I think, OTR, which again is community urban living, concept, right? And so as we solve our inventory issue by building out the community urban living concept, we've got to hit doubles, triples, and home runs on selecting the right community because of sustainability, right? So just challenges there. And I think that was a great answer that you had. My wife and I drove by both of those new condo developments going up yesterday in our normal route of picking up kids and dropping them off, et cetera. And I just said to her, I was like, I don't know that many people that are pre-approved that are looking at condos. So I'm curious to see how fast they sell and fill up, right? So, okay, soapbox off, right? Okay, a lot of agents that I've seen are starting to, in this market, because of speed, ability to get in and get out, and because of the relationships that you have across the table, I'm seeing a lot of agents invest in real estate right now. Just like I mentioned, you did, where you've got this Airbnb and OTR. Are you seeing that a lot more? I talked to an agent last week that said, you know what, I got in, I'm just going to pay cash for this property and then I'll market it, myself. But it was a speed thing. So are you seeing that?
Yes. I think if you look at it, because in real estate, we don't really have a residual income. This is just from one deal to the next deal type of situation. And the real estate market really allows us an opportunity to build a residual income depending on which way you want to do it. So you can either do it as a long-term rental and stack them so that you're getting something each month that's residual, but also having to deal with tenants, which is nice to be somewhere that has property management. Or you can do what we did and do short-term rental, and I love having our Airbnb. I think it's phenomenal. Our initial goal when we purchased this Airbnb was we selfishly wanted something downtown that we could use when we were down there, so we didn't have to commute back and forth, but also wanted to have it for an opportunity of people to also enjoy it when they come to Cincinnati, or if there was like a strange situation where somebody couldn't reside in their home. Being in the insurance background, people's homes are like destroyed from something, fire, whatever is usually number one. They have to live somewhere. They don't want to live in a hotel with their whole family and their pets, right? So it'd be really nice to be able to like move them into something that felt more like a home during that transition. And that's the way we looked at it when we were looking at getting an Airbnb. And it took us 2 years to find the right one. To your point, we knew it was all about location. We had to be smart about it. Price, because that was part of it. Like the numbers have to make sense. And so we did a lot of homework on how much this was going to cost us monthly versus what we were going to have to bring in each night, and see if it would even be sustainable in Cincinnati. And the condo we bought, when we purchased it, it was in an area that was still kind of underdeveloped of OTR. It was at the very end of the street of Main Street near Liberty. And I remember the first time I went in there, the park right next to us was not in good condition. There was some homeless people staying there. It was kind of sketchy. They're always yelling at you. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what did we do? We just bought this thing. And within weeks, they had come through. They had started repainting buildings, repaving streets. They cleaned up the park. They put like gates on it and like a bunch of signs not allowing them to be there. They put up more security cameras. And it's almost like it flourished overnight, so we saw it moving. You could see it moving down the street of Main Street. And we were at the moment, like, if we don't get in now, we won't. When we closed on our condo, a month later, the one next to us, there's only 8 in our unit, sold for $260,000 more than what we paid for ours. So that was one of those key points to what you said, is it's our responsibility to see that writing on the wall for our clients, to see Does it make sense for them to make a move into this community and this development? Just like with Norwood, we tried to tell people move to Norwood because this is going to blow up. It's the same concept. But yes, we made an excellent business decision purchasing that. We're starting to see a lot more agents do the same. We coach them on it, to say, hey, there is a dire need for people to have decent places to live. And you as a real estate agent could own several of those places and give people the opportunity that may not be in a position to buy, to rent, and also build yourself residual income. And we need to change the mindset and look at it that way.
Nice. Okay. My last topic-based question, and then you guys feel free to unmute and get your questions ready, or you can type them in chat and I'll ask them. There continues to be this rumbling that the state of Kentucky is going to do away with their income tax, their state income tax. And it hasn't officially gone into place yet, but again, it's kind of public knowledge now. I feel like that's going to create some sort of exodus, across the river, and make that more attractive. And I've seen, and you mentioned this before the call, that a lot of brokerages are talking about opening up offices over there now. Listen, on the younger hip side, it seems like that downtown living is still very attractive because a lot of people are working downtown still. And so it doesn't matter if they're across the river or not, but that provides some urban living, close to downtown. Are you seeing a lot of agents that are starting to get dual licensed and get licensed in other states?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not to get off the soapbox of the income tax thing, but that was supposed to have been temporary when it was invented. But let's move on. So yes, we are seeing a lot of agents make that move and that shift. We've even had potential new team members come in that said, hey, we're licensed in Kentucky and Ohio. And so just showing that already to the brokerage, they're like, okay, like this is something we really need to look into. At the moment, we have business partners in Kentucky that we do a ton of business back and forth with, and we literally just share the client until they make a decision on where they want to go. To your point, losing income tax would be huge for Kentucky. And Hamilton County property taxes are really high. So having to see that if they work downtown, they may not be wanting to pay those high income taxes, and they could just be across the river and have that quick, easy access to commute back over. And it may make sense now, even though they're paying taxes on other things that we don't, but eliminating that one big thing could really make a big shift to that. As you've probably seen, they're growing a lot in that area. There's a lot of properties that are being renovated, a lot of things being built up on the hill. Price points seem to be a little bit better on the Kentucky side than the Ohio side. And properties seem to sit on the market just a tad bit longer than they do here. I had clients that were looking to potentially sell and buy in Ohio. They actually ended up just buying a second property because they wanted their son to go to Xavier High School. And so you have to own property in Ohio to do that. So that's what they ended up doing. But looking at all the numbers and everything that made sense, their fear was if they wanted to go back to Kentucky, they knew they were going to have to pay a lot more to do it, which is what made them say, well, let's just buy a condo that we could invest in, know that it's going to be a good return. It's right by FC Stadium. We can sell it in the future. So yes, we're looking to potentially expand down there. We had an agent on our team that was also licensed in Indiana for kind of like the similar reasons. Because that's a huge area that could grow. There's not much out there, which means there's a lot that can move out there. And it's pretty close to the Ohio line too. But Kentucky seems to be the biggest development at the moment. I'm sure Indiana will be next. And just for the sake of sanity, there's so many agents that are dual licensed. They're offering reciprocity. I don't know if you guys knew that, but they are. It has to, you just submit it for approval. It's not like a standard, and they'll approve it. And then you just take their state tests and get licensed. Same for the brokerage.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. Who's got a question for Amanda?
So I either did really well and went through everything, or I did really bad and they're all asleep and not really paying attention.
No, it gets like this sometimes. Let me ask another one while we're seeing if people are thinking of it.
Mhm.
I mentioned that people are working downtown, but there's still, it seems like a lot of society still enjoys working remote. Um, with real estate, mortgage, insurance, etc., our job is easy to be in a remote office or work from home. Are you still finding the benefits of going into an office space? And if so, how often do you do that? What do you gain from other agents in the office? You know,
Mhm.
if anything, and there may not be, or maybe that may not be your cup of tea. I'm just curious.
No, that's a great question. For the longest time, especially even during COVID and being with my prior brokerage, we primarily worked at home. And we had office spaces, but they were few and far between. So they were kind of hard to get to. And when I shifted to something a lot closer to where I am locally, like I noticed being in the office was like super helpful to me, because if I wanted something in the moment, I could go right to the front desk and ask our admin or my manager's there and just say, hey, I was thinking of doing this marketing to this. Like, what do you think? Yeah, we can do ABC and we'll handle it. Just email, blah, blah, blah. It's taken care of. So I noticed that what it was doing is taking everything off my plate for me trying to figure it out on my own, because I was isolated, to like leaning on people that could answer it right away and then it could just be handled. Because in our world, if you don't do something in that moment, you're going to get a text or a phone call or three or four that's going to distract you, and then it's going to get pushed off until later. So ever since we've switched, I've been at the broker office every day and I've loved it, just because we have our own personal office space in there. So if I need privacy, I can close the door. But having those people in that environment, talking about things that we need, things that we're looking for, they all seem to like collectively try to help. And they'll be like, oh, I heard so and so said they had this property. Let me reach out to them for you. It's been such a big shift, and I do feel like those were things we did before intentionally. In my last brokerage, we would have to schedule time to do it, but now it just becomes more natural.
Mhm. Okay, great. All right. So Patrick's got a question, and he says, with growth and volume comes a natural growth to the team. Do you have a size that you would like to stay at, or would you grow the team as you see the volume continue to rise?
I love that question. So I'm going to grow the team as I see the volume come in. I'm not going to say no. I do want to make it clear though, like as I grow my team, like my specific qualifications for that team member are pretty intense. And it is something that we revisit on an annual basis to make sure they're still a good fit. I'm not the type of agent that wants to have just like 200 team members and only 5 of them do something. Like I'm here for all of us to grow together and all share in that success as a team and grow as a team, as opposed to just having a bunch of people to have a bunch of people. Like I believe in quality over quantity, and we will help train and coach agents to be there. I've shown a really good history of doing that. And it's because the way I treat real estate is as a business and putting measures in place to run it as a business. A lot of agents treat it as real estate transactional, one deal to the next. And if you're not pipelining and building your business, you're going to live and die on the one deal to the next. And so coaching the agents on how to grow that creates sustainability, creates a future, and then eventually they just have it running on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Great question, Patrick. And obviously everybody has their own unique perspective, but Amanda, I tend to agree with yours. So, all right. If nobody has any other questions, Amanda, thank you so much. This was awesome. Now I don't just have to, chit chat with you at choir concerts or stuff like that, but I think you are headed on the right path, and I am excited to watch you grow. And I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. So next week we are going to reset with Brittany Fritsch. And if you didn't see it, she is now recently featured in Real Producers. That was not on purpose. She was previously scheduled and had a last minute conflict. But yes, Patrick, boom. It's good timing. She'll be here next week, and I'm excited about that. Jessica Mills is the week after that. And so we've got a lot of great people lined up as we continue through this. So Amanda, thank you. And thank you everybody else for joining. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you.
See ya.